Hey guys, Mechanite here, and recently I went back to the world I found that seemed suspiciously like that of the book's Beast Quest, and they were under quite a bit of trouble. I'm lucky I got there in time. 4 evil beasts of unknown origins had broken into Avantia's vault and stolen 4 magical artifacts: the Nitrosian Fists, the Golden Spear, the Chains of the Underworld, and the Vampire Blade. Tom and Eleanor had already set off on their quest to slay these 4 beasts, and rumours were spreading across Advantia that they had been made by the evil wizard Malvo, though there was no proof of this. However, on my last visit to this realm, I had given both Tom and Eleanor a device that meant if I ever came back to this world and they weren't there, I'll be able to track them and help them in their quest. And that's exactly what I did. And I was lucky I got there in time, because they were in the middle of a fight with a ferocious beast. I arrived in a scorching desert, full of ruins, filled with melted glass and metal. The broken soldier of armours laid strewn across the sandy ground, and there was a maniacal laughter cackling through the desert winds. I met up with Tom and Eleanor just in time, as Tom was tackled by a beast that looked like a human, but with its figure warped and stretched into a bestial form, its terrifying grin piercing my soul. Its muscles across its arm burst open like warts, exploded into blood and flames, and as it reached into its gauntlet-covered hands, it struck Tom's shield, and despite Tom's shield's ability to shield fire, it still sent Tom flying back into some ruins in a burst of flames and smoke. Tom had dropped his sword as he flung back, so I dove over and rolled past the beast as it jumped at me, grabbing the sword and swinging it at the beast. Sadly, when it had jumped at me, it had managed to dig itself into the ground of sand and burst out at Eleanor, who luckily managed to dodge out the way and fire an arrow straight into the beast's skull. The beast was an expert at moving across the sand, leaping between the ruins and moving through the sand as all of us slipped through it. I managed to hit him with my hammer as he jumped at me again, though he used his feet to jump off of the strike, flying back into some ruins and then flipping at me again. It grabbed my shoulder in one arm and punched me with the other, each of the gauntlets feeling like burning hot metal against my flesh, and it even melted my own metallic armour, though my electricity sparked off it and sent the beast back a little bit, enough for me to throw it off, grab Tom's sword from off the ground, and stab it in the arm. The beast shrieked, but it soon grabbed the sword and tried to pull it out. As it did, though, the sword crashed into the sand. Tom ran over to grab it and stabbed the beast in the neck. The gauntlets this beast wore were once one of the sacred treasures the beast had stolen, but ever since it touched its cursed flesh, it had rusted and melted, warping its shape. And as the beast jumped at me again, I struck it with my hammer. It crashed to the ground, but then it jumped at me again, kicking me and sending me flying back into some ruins. I crashed against a rock, smashing through a wall. Luckily, Tom managed to fight off the beast before it could lunge at me again, and Eleanor was able to strike the beast with her bow from a distance, hitting every single shot. It was a long battle, but eventually I managed to throw a stunning disc onto the beast. It hit its gauntlet, which obviously didn't hurt it, but the electricity struck through its hand and its arm went limp. So Tom managed to strike it whilst it wasn't looking, distracted from the blow, and it struck the beast's shoulder. The beast bled out, and in a fiery burst, it fell to the sand. Surrounded by glass and ashes, the beast's dead body lied. It was on to the next beast, known as the Midas Shark. However, we noticed something odd as we were leaving, something that particularly stuck with me the most. The beast's ashes glimmered red, which wasn't unusual for a beast, especially not an evil one. However, this was different. The magic that was into the sand was veiny like blood, like an infection spreading through the desert. It wasn't like the magic of Malville, even Tom and Ella could tell that. Something was off about this magic, and I was just going to notice it more as we went to the next beasts. Tom rode Storm throughout the desert for days. We went 3 days without any water, though we eventually reached a merchant town on the beach. We managed to restock on food and supplies, and that's exactly where the next beast was, the Midas Shark, the beast who had stolen the golden spear. It is unknown how the beast had managed to take it, as from what we knew, it was fully aquatic, and even blind in one eye. It seemed this beast wasn't a newly created one, and it had been around to fight many battles before now. However, we purchased a ship and went out to fight it anyway. We left Storm out by a merchant. He promised that he would keep us safe. I felt uneasy, but we had bigger issues at hand. We sailed out into the open ocean, the waves crashing against our wooden ship, and we heard it, and we saw it. A cackling through the water, similar to our previous beast, however not as maniacal as before, and a golden shimmer through the water. In truth, this was the beast that proved to me that these beasts must have already existed, maybe even having been corrupted in some way, as in Tom's world there are legends of a type of shark that created all golden wealth, using its evil status to twist the human mind. We think it may have been based on this beast, though obviously we can't be safe for certain. As far as we know, this beast may be part of a species, though like other beasts, that is rare, and as far as we know, we might have just killed the only one. It struck our boat head first, its spiked nose splintering against the wood. The wood was covered in golden specks, but Eleanor managed to strike the beast as it was going back down, in its soaked hair. We saw one of the beast's shining blue eyes. However, that seemed to contrast with the rest of the beast. Even the other eye was grey with its blindness. This eye must be the source of its power, I thought. I was wrong. In fact, this eye was just a natural part of the beast, but with its corruption so heavy, everything about it seemed odd. It seemed almost human-like the human form stretched into the shape of an aquatic monster. And in the truth, it was as intelligent as a human in some fashions, but as bestial as all the other beasts in how it fought. It jumped out of the water, trying to eat Tom in one bite, but luckily I managed to jump in front and strike the beast with a shield. It hurt them, but I could tell it did barely nothing. All it did was nudge them off from striking Tom. It crashed against the rest of the boat, and Tom managed to strike it in its arm once, though Tom's sword was turned slightly gold by this. We thought this beast must be turning things to gold, though we also thought it could just be an illusion. This won't be the first beast we met with magical illusions able to trick us. It definitely won't be the last, but it will be the last of its kind. As it went up again, it tried to eat our mast. It struck it and barely missed, which gave me enough time to leap at it. As it went back into the water, I held on to its hair for dear life, trying not to drown, but also trying to take this beast down. My electroreceptors were going through the water, and I could tell they were striking the beast, as small cuts appeared in their flesh. Now, my armour does improve the amount of time I can spend outside of land, where I can't breathe, but I didn't know if it was nearly going to be enough to take down this beast. The beast circled the boat in the water like a vulture, ready to pounce at any chance it got, and in truth, I just tried to hold on. Eleanor shot arrows into the water that struck the beast's flesh, and eventually it did leap out again to try and attack them. Its nose struck the ship, but luckily I jumped off and the beast was dead. blood circled our boat. Eleanor's arrows had been enough to take the beast down, and mixed with my electrical capacity, as soon as the beast left the water, it was paralysed. All the pain set in, and the beast was gone for good. Our ship was beaten, and we were unsure on whether it would still be able to float back to shore, as it was sinking by the moment. Tom called in Sepron to take us back to land. It took time, but it was good to finally see another one of Tom's beasts again, even with some of them still zombies from one of our last debacles. In truth, we are still hunting them, and that was one of the reasons I came to their world. Though, so much crazy things have been happening in that world lately, Tom and Eleanor haven't really had the chance to fix them. The next beast we hunted was on a separated island, where all of the water was green and acidic. This was the beast that had stolen the chains of the underworld, and in truth, this beast had even incorporated them into its biology. It seemed the beast had prior experience, which scared me. These beasts we already didn't know nearly enough about, and we were knowing less about them by the minute, more questions being raised. However, once we reached the island, we managed to find the beast nearly instantly. Though Tom and I were still worried about leaving Storm on the island with the merchant. They were a nice person, but in a situation like this where you're hunting beasts, who you can trust really gets put into perspective. But luckily I knew I could trust Tom, and as the beast leapt at him, he managed to swipe it with his sword, almost cutting the arm off, but the beast still struck me. I fell back. I wasn't hurt, but I did fall into the acid, and my armour started to burn. I had been wearing a special type of armour I created, as to not scare the citizens of this world with my future technology. However, that armour left parts of my skin uncovered, and my skin bubbled and boiled at the feel of this acid. I immediately jumped out, but I screamed in pain as I did, and the beast didn't seem to care. As it ran through, it went onto its hind legs, and it leapt at Eleanor. Eleanor managed to roll out of the way, but the beast simply tumbled into the acid, it doing nothing to the beast's furred skin. For a beast that seemed more humanoid than most, this beast was one of the most bestial I'd ever fought. It leapt at Tom, its teeth piercing through its own gums, blood spilling from its mouth, but Tom managed to strike the beast's mouth with his shield. Its teeth wrapped around the wood, but Tom managed to smash the beast against the ground and strike its chest with his sword. The beast's tail swung at Tom, but Tom blocked that with his shield as well, leaving burn marks on his shield. Whatever magic Tom's shield was able to block, this was different. The beast then swung its tail at me, though as it went it thinned, the ghostial membrane becoming chain-like. In truth, this was the chain of the underworld, incorporated into the beast's form with the beast's ghostly ectoplasmic energy. Luckily, I managed to lift up one of my gauntlets to block it, and I threw a stunning disc at the beast, though it simply grabbed it out of the air and threw it like a frisbee at Eleanor, who managed to dodge and shoot an arrow at the beast. Though, as it hit the beast's arm, it melted into the flame-like membrane of its claws. Despite how much the acid had burned and pained me, I jumped at the beast again, using my superpowered boots to crash into it at full speed. They needed time to recharge and it affected the rest of my systems, but I knew that if my armour was going to get destroyed, it should at least get destroyed for good purpose. Me and the beast both fell into the acid, and the beast didn't seem to care, but Eleanor managed to shoot it in the neck whilst it was down, and as the beast jumped back up, it left me in the acid. Its claws were outstretched towards Tom, but Tom flung up his shield. The claws hit the shield and Tom managed to throw the beast over to Eleanor. Eleanor dodged, but as the beast was flying through the air, flames sputtering from its mouth, an arrow struck the beast in its side from Eleanor, and then I threw one more stun disc to the beast's head. It was out cold. I went by its corpse, took the chain, and it was time for the final beast. The last beast we found was called Kadon, and it lived in the mountains. The mountains were a place where many a war had been fought, with ruined castles scattering its cold, icy surface. It was covered in iron and metal. Rudimentary armour and swords laid long-forgotten battlefields. The graves so ruined you don't even know who fought. And eventually a beast had come across this, the same beast who had stolen the vampire blade. It was a large white and blue bat-like beast, able to shoot sound waves from its mouth. And its sword was nowhere to be seen. It seemed it had a lair somewhere hidden in the mountains. We went back and found Storm again, and it was a polite reminder that even in this world where no one could be trusted and beasts ravaged, everyone deserved at least some bit of trust, and we should always try to see the good in people. Though some beasts really make that difficult. The beast flew at us as we first went up to the mountain after a 3-day hike. It swung at me, shooting a sound blast which flung me back, but luckily I hit the rocks at just the right angle to jump back at it. I pulled out a small dagger and struck its neck. However, when I tried to hold on to its back, the beast flung me off. I struck Storm, and Storm rode away. Tom was still on, but Eleanor had also fallen off. As Tom calmed Storm, we came up with a plan. Me and Tom would try to fight this beast, whilst Eleanor went with Storm to discover the cave where this beast had put the blade. She rode off, but the beast flung at Tom, its legs outstretched to grab him like it was going to fly him into the air. And that's exactly what it was planning on doing. It struck him and lifted him into the air. Tom struck his sword into the beast's leg. Blood sputtered out, but the beast launched a sound wave that flung Tom's sword from his hand. It flew down to the ground, but I had just the opportunity. I boosted up, using some of the flames from my boots. I grabbed the sword and did a flip in the air, twisting backwards, and as I twisted again, I threw the sword full force. It twisted through the air, spinning like a small cyclone, and it struck the beast in its rib cage. The beast let out a massive sound wave that parted the clouds, and Tom was released, and sent tumbling towards a cracked rocky earth. I tried to jump forward and save him, but the beast flew at me as well, and I had to make a choice: kill the beast or save Tom. I knew Tom's shield would be able to slow his fall and Tom would be safe, but what I hadn't noticed is that Tom had dropped his shield mid-air. He might have been able to grip onto it, and he might not have had the opportunity, but I knew that Tom would survive. I had faith, and this beast needed slaying either way. So I knew even if Tom was gravely injured, this height would likely not kill him. I jumped at the beast, with my hammer outstretched. At first, I just hit it with the blunt end, and then I launched my hologram at the beast, sending it crashing towards the earth in the opposite direction as Tom. It used the momentum to fly across the earth, running at daring speeds to glide towards me. It tried to launch another sound wave, but I managed to grab Tom out of the air. Me and him rolled to the ground, and an arrow thudded against the beast's flesh, sending it flying to the ground, dead, in an open wound already carved by Tom's sword. Eleanor's arrow had struck. She had found the vampiric sword and taken it to us. Storm was safe as well, though a bit injured. We all managed to ride home. That is until I got an alert from Fortnite for another mission. I said goodbye to the two, and I made sure they knew that if they ever needed me for another mission, they could contact me. I went off to do my mission with Fortnite, and overall, that brought me closer together with Tom and Eleanor, and in the later stages, we would eventually become good teammates, and he would even help me in a situation that concerned multiple worlds much later on.